All right, creatives, Tunji from Ceasar Graphics, welcome to my channel. All right, so in this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use background. Okay, because this training is a course, all right, I won't be able to share everything with you guys in this video. But guess what, guys? This is a series, and we're going to have part 2 of this anytime soon. So for those of you that have not subscribed, please remember to hit the subscribe button so you get notified when I post the next video on how to use background. But I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy what I'm going to teach you guys today, because I'm going to be touching one of the type of background that most of us see, but we find it difficult to know how to use it. And I'm sure you guys are going to thank me after this training. So let's start. Before I get into the practical part of this meeting, I need every one of you to know what background really is. All right, because I know creatives most time don't really understand what background is, and that's the reason why we don't use it the right way. Your understanding of what background is what help with you knowing how to play with it the right way on your project. So background is the part of the design that appear foretaste to the viewers. The work of the background is to project what's on the foreground. If your background is taking more attention than the content that is supposed to be on the foreground, the background is not going to serve as background anymore. Your background is important. In fact, background is important in every design. And that's the reason why your background is what shaped the composition of your project. And that's why most time when we are working on design projects, your background is what determines the color you use on the project. Now, there are times where your visual, your illustration is what's going to determine the color. But if you are trying to make the illustration, your visual, the source of the color you plan to use on the project, it means you have to make this reflect on the background. Now, I'm going to, like I said, this is a series, all right? I'm sure in the other part of this training, I'm going to teach you guys how to pick the color from your visual and apply it to your background to give your project the aesthetic look, all right? So, but today I'm going to be focusing on one of the type of background we have. But before we go to the one of the type of background we have, I want to tell you guys, I want to let you guys know the different types of background we have. We have gradient type of background, which is the focus for today. We have the image type of background. We have the pattern type of background. We have the texture type of background, and then we have the visual type of background, which is the using of your illustration to create your background. All right, but I'm not going to go into the other type of background today. I'm only going to focus on the gradient part of background. And if anybody is telling you that there is no one right way to use a background, that's a big lie. There's a way to use your background. And how do you use your background? How you use your background is when you have what I'm about to share with you now in mind, which is your background should give room for contrast. Contrast is very important where the use of background is concerned. Your background should also give depth. All right, it should also give depth. And what really helped the making of your background serve as background is the value. Now, value simply goes with the visibility of the background and the color. If let's say visibility or the color you use on the background in terms of the value of the color, if you want to make it too bright or you want to make it dark, because there are times where you make your background bright in order to make it project the information you have on the foreground correctly, or you make the background dark so as to help the visibility of the content you have on the the foreground. Now, but there are different types. Now, there are different type of grounds that we have in design. We have the foreground, we have the middle ground, and then we have the background. Now, the reason why I'm not really talking about the middle ground now is because I'm not focused. My focus is not to teach you guys the three. All right. I'm only teaching you guys background and foreground. All right. Now, the foreground most time also help with projecting the information correctly. All right. Right now, I'm taking the foreground as the middle ground. All right. Because um, there's this part of you combining the three. If you're a photographer, I'm sure you can relate to what I'm saying here. You know, when photographers take pictures, you see there's this thing called depth of field. All right. And what depth of field does is it makes whatever that is not part of focus, that is not supposed to be on the focus, is going to make them blurry. All right. So whatever is behind the subjects, that is the focus. Whatever is behind the subject is the background. What is in the middle, which is the focus, is the middle ground, and what we have in front of the middle ground is the foreground. All right. But today, my focus is to teach you guys background and foreground. Well, I may still change my mind during this series to teach you guys the three, but right now I really want to focus on the background and the foreground, because this two is the most important part where achieving successful design is concerned. So like I said, I'm going to go into the gradient type of background today. Now, but before I get to one of the ways you can get gradient for your project, because I'm also going to teach you guys how to use the gradient correctly, because I know so many of you don't know how to use it. Now, when you are using a background, the first thing, all right, you need to check on the background is, where is my focal point? Where am I going to place my focal point? Because the area where you're going to place your focal point should be on the background. All right. The area where you want people to see the important information on your project should already reflect on your background. I know so many of us don't understand this part of creating that area where we want the important information to reflect, like to show on our background. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. All right. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use Google to search for the gradient image I'm going to use. And trust, I'm sure after this meeting, guys, you guys are going to empty Google, because the background you are going to save from Google, I'm sure so many of you don't know that you can actually use those background to create design project with ease. So I'm going to just randomly pick a background image from Google, and I'll show you guys how to convert that image to background. And let me shock every one of you. There's no image, all right, that you can't use as your background. Yes. I know some of you will go like, is that true? Yes. There's no image that you can use as your background. But before using any image as your background, you need to understand the project. All right. Because the project, the message behind the project is what most time help with knowing, okay, if we get any image as our background, how do we now tweak this image to flow with the message on the project? All right, so I'm going to switch to my other screen now, and I'll show you guys how I normally play with gradient image when I'm trying to create background. I go to just go to google.com on your address bar here and click on images. All right, that's how you search for images on the internet. And right now I'm going to type gradient. You see it here, gradient background, and look at so many different backgrounds we have here. All right, so I'm going to randomly pick one of the background. Just use this. All right, so I'm using this background now, and I'll move this off my screen now, and let's move this here. All right, so I'll drag this and drop here like that, and I'll make this real big. All right, no, and listen, guys, remember I told you guys that when you're using background, the things you need to watch out for is the contrast. All right, contrast is very, very key where using background is concerned, and watch out for the depths. All right, the depths, which is creating that distance. All right, creating the distance on the background. And the value, so the value simply means the color. All right, so I'm going to make this real big like that. And Photoshop is not the only application you can use to play with your background. You can also use CorelDRAW if you're a CorelDRAW user, and you can also use Illustrator. All right, but because I'm a Photoshop user, that's the reason why I'm using Photoshop here now. So I'm going to so this is my background here. I like the fact that it's bright, but right now I need to make the color. You know, I told you guys that the color on your background is what inspired the color that you use on the project. So I want to create that depth here by moving this above this, and I'll clip this inside. Okay, you know what, let's just, I'm going to hold on Control Shift and click on the thumbnail of the text layer that I have here, because I want to create the marquee of the text layer. And I'm going to click on the layer mask here to clip this inside the mask like that. And so right now I'm going to hide this for now. And so the way it is now, you can see my title, but it's not really, you know, it's not really visible. So let's make this visible now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select levels here, which is what I told you guys, that the value, all right, the playing of the value is what really help with making the background serve as the background. So now I want to call this title now back to the foreground, all right, because it's still looking like the background now. So I want to create that separation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this clip icon here, because I want this to only affect the title and not the background and the title. So I'm going to move this in. All right, so I'm going to move it down. Now you see, we're beginning to see the value on the color on the background. Sorry, I think I did not duplicate the background. I was supposed to do that because I was wondering what's going on. I was supposed to see the background. So the reason why I didn't see it is because I mistakenly you know, drag it and drop in here instead of me to make a copy of it. So yeah, look at it now. Look at how beautiful this is. All right, look at how we now have life here on the title. So if I want to play with moving the color around, because there are times when you may want to, let me just you know, you may want to just have different color, you know, on your title, and you still want to achieve making sure that you don't go outside of the color that you have on the background. You can always do it this way. So I'm going to activate free transform now. All right, for my Photoshop users, I know you know the right shortcut for that, and for those of you who are not Photoshop users, it's Control T. All right, so if I move this here now, you see we are beginning to have this beautiful color right here on the you know, on our title here. So let's say I over applied this and I don't really like it. I can always go back and, you know, move this way, and we are still going to have this beautiful color on our title here. So for this, I can change this now. I can change the color of this now to this color here. All right, and it will go. Now you see this is making sense, and I can pick a color from here. Don't worry, guys, I'm still going to use that color here. I can pick a color from here and, you know, change this to this color or this color here, and it will still go. So we can increase the saturation to help the visibility of that text like that. All right, this is good. Then, like I said, you can still go around by moving the image round like that. You can do this. Another cool thing you can do is, if this part is this area of the color is what you prefer, you can also activate the free transform again and then make this real big. And trust me, this will still work on the background. And let's see if I use another color, another background color again. Let's use this. If I move this now and I drag this down here. All right, so I decided to pick this particular one so as to use it to explain what I told you guys previously about knowing the area where you plan to place your title. All right, so if I make this big now, all right, if I make this big, okay, I know so many of you will just, okay, let's say you like this background the way it is. I know some of you may just want to just use white color text here. So if I turn this off, and I make this visible, I know so many of you would just prefer to use white here. Okay, sorry, this should be behind this like that. Yeah, so I know some of you may not just prefer to use white like this, but I want to let you guys know that there are times where, you know, you need to, you know, you can still use color from your background to make this, to make your elements, all right, to make your elements pop on the background. So, I told you guys that, you need to spot the area where you plan to place your title or the information on your design. So I like the fact that we have this side here, all right? We have this side here looking plain and nothing is on it. But right here, we have this gradient, this gradient effect here, which is not really going to look nice if I place my title on that area. So right now, I need to change the layout of my project. I told you guys that your background is what shaped the layout of your project. So because I said I prefer this as the area where I want to place my title, so I'm going to move this out from where it is now. All right, because right now, sorry, this needs to be out here. I hope. Okay, good. So I'm going to move this up here like so. All right, I'm going to move this up here. Sorry, I'm supposed to move it with this. So I'm going to move this here right now. And I'll move the other information right under, sorry. Right under it like that. Okay. Then we can make this big. Sorry, it should just be. So I'm going to delete this now. I'm going to delete this too. And delete this for now. So I'm going to make the title real big like that. All right. So yes. So if I move this up here now, let's just make this also white. Good. Now, so let's now use the background to apply the color to this now. So I'm going to make a copy of this, move this here, do the same move again by holding down Control and Shift. Then I'm going to click on the thumbnail of the text layer. So I'm going to hide this now and click on the clip icon here. And right now we're going to activate levels again because that's what I mostly use to change the value of image here. So I'm going to click on the clip icon now and I'm going to make the same move again by moving this. Now, notice, guys, our background here is dark because that's one other thing you need to watch out for. I mentioned contrast. All right. I mentioned contrast, value, and depth. All right. So right now, our background is dark. So it won't make sense if we now make our text or our color darker on the background, because you need to always create separation whenever you are placing elements on your background. There should be this separation, like making people see that, okay, there's a difference here, which is the contrast I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to move this, if I go down like this, now you see we're beginning to lose the title is not really looking interesting. It's looking dull. It's making the project look dull, which is one of the things that most creatives don't know. When you place a dark value color, like a dark value on a dark value element on a dark background, is going to make the project look dull. So right now we need to give life to the project. I'm going to move this up like that. All right. And if I move this to this side like that, I can move this in. Now, see, guys, you can always, play with this. The fact that I'm using this concept here now does not mean, okay, so I have to stick to this setting that Ceasar is using when it gets to my turn. All right. So there's no one right way to play with the value. Okay. Sorry. I mostly play with gradient effect on my title when I notice that the information on the project is saying something around entertainment, play, something around play. All right. That's when I do it. But right now, so it's also, we can also do it on this project because the information here says tea party. And because we have the word party there, we can always have this gradient effect on our title. So I'm going to break the chain connecting the layer mask and the layer now to see if I play with the image now and see if the result is going to look okay for me. Now, look at this. So there are times when you move the image around, the color on the image may not be okay for the background. So what you need to do here, which is where your creativity comes in, what you now need to do here is, let's say you prefer this color on the background, then you now need to go back to the levels, all right, and move this again to where you know you are going to have a better setting for the background. All right. So if you notice, okay, after moving this, I'm still not getting the look I want, then you can move to this and, change the color on the background. All right. So you can do this. Okay. But I don't now. I'm not really a fan of this type of color here, right? I'm not using this color here now. So I'm just teaching you guys just in case you find out that, okay, there's a color I have on the background that is not really helping my project. All right. So you can always do this. So if I move this to somewhere, let's go around again. If I move this, I think I prefer this. And then for this, all right, we can now change the color of this to, let's say if I change the color of this now to this color here. All right. And so the text inside this now can now have this color here. Now you see that all the colors I'm using are still from the background. All right. So I'm seeing some error here, which I don't like. So if I turn this off, bam, look at this. Look at how beautiful this is. Then for this now, we can change the color of everything here to let's say I'm going to change the color to this color here in order to make it visible. All right, good. Now, so what the last thing I'm going to do here is I want to show you guys, because there are times when you may have images that you want to blend with the your background. Let's say you have this type of gradient background here, and then you now want to blend the image to the background. So I want to show you guys how to do this, because I know so many of you always try to do this, but you do this the wrong way. So if I get a T image here now, all right, I'm still on Google here, so I'm going to put this on my screen here so you guys can see. All right, so if I look for, I'm going to look for a picture of a T here now, and let's use this. All right, let's use this. So the reason why I'm using Google to train you guys here is because I know so many of you think, man, there's nothing I can get from Google to achieve my design project. It's a lie. There are times you can get the right image from Google. All right, and sorry, please, guys. I need you guys to pay attention to what I'm doing here, because this part here is very, very tricky. Okay, now look at this. So now if I change my blend mode here to soft light, yeah, soft light is cool. Now look at this. Look at how cool this is. So there are times when you need to, do this, but so this is okay. All right, the output of this is perfect. But there are times when you have the color on your background affecting the gradient on the project. So what I do most time is I go under hue saturation here and select the clip icon and reduce, all right, the saturation of the image. This T image here is okay. So I'm going to leave the saturation as 0 now. And yeah. So then if you feel, okay, man, I still want to spice this up, you can still go back and pick the color from the background, hit Ctrl J, and move this above the image, because there are times when you need to, do this to spice up the project, which, I know so many of us always want to make our project more lively. All right. So if you want to still play with your elements and you don't want it to look too busy, do what I'm doing now. So I'm going to change this to screen. Then I'll go to filter. You know what? Let's just move this to somewhere here. So if I go to filter now and select blur and select Gaussian blur now, and I move my blur strength radius to this. All right, like that. Okay. I'm going to select the OK button and activate the free transform and make this bigger. And look at how beautiful this is. You can move it here, it will still fly, and you can also move it here where you have the image of your subject. And if you still want to add depth to this, let's say you still want to make this have more depth, you can then go to curve and then make this have depth, like that. All right. So yeah. All right. I'm sure you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you have not subscribed, remember to hit the subscribe button, and also remember to click the post notification bell so you get notified when I post my tutorials. All right. Please share this video with other creatives, and remember to give it a thumbs up if you like it. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think about this tutorial, and also share what you're looking forward to learn in the next tutorial. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.